entire guild's in Hellfire Peninsula. Hello? My entire guild. Hello, are you there? 63 priest can heal or DPS. Yeah. Can heal. Cool. Thanks. Fly there. My flying car. Oh.
What can I do for you? Great to meet you.
I'm from North Korea. I am from North Korea. Sort of. Oh shit! Fuck. 1 second. It's not the worst thing ever, but I need a napkin. Where are you guys at? I spilled coffee, but not too much, so. Water? Oh my god, dude. I'm so generous. Why so generous? What are edibles? Where's our tank and all this? Oh my. Good stuff, guys. Why did I lose my fucking fortitude there? And my shadow buff. My respect? That's kind of lame. So I spent the last few hours researching about that Tower BFD thing, right? BFT rather. They're getting rid of the fucking thing. Like World Trade Center 7, pretty much. It's just not going to be there one day. And they're getting rid of it for something called Alpenglow, which I haven't read. I spent all evening trying to figure this thing out. So the lockout phases and everything, super cool idea. It took me a minute though to figure out how it worked. Now I'm like, I spent all that bashing my head against the wall trying to figure it out. Now I realize they're gonna get rid of it anyway. But it's probably a good thing still, you know. It's all good shit to learn regardless. You know, use it somewhere else or whatever. But the lockout thing, so it's designed to basically get, like, algorithmically get someone to commit to. But what I don't know is how do they enforce? Well, they said something about like votes or something. Delegates like considered delinquent. Like your chain or your validator gets considered to be delinquent if it tries. Like it's like the attack. Well, you say an attack or whatever, but you know, trying to vote for a, you know, to facilitate a double spend or whatever. The network detects it and then I guess temporarily removes that validator's the incentive, like, so they don't get, there's no incentive for them on the blocks that are validated for that time slot or whatever. Oh, clutch shield. Live it. So the lockout thing's pretty cool. So you're committed to that chain for 54 years past the day of your final vote. And each time you vote, after 32 times, it refreshes the timer. So it just keeps you committed to agreeing on this one thing here. I'm sitting there thinking like, so what if you shut your validator down for 54 years? Can you then cast a vote? Like all of that, and then you cast a vote on another fork. The network immediately recognizes it as, let's say, an attack. I don't know what other word you use for it. The network immediately rejects that vote and imposes some sort of penalty on that validator for attempting to validate a malicious fork or whatever. So that's pretty cool, and they've come up with a system apparently better than that. And I have yet to read what voter and rotor and all that stuff is, but they've apparently came up with something even better than that. What I don't understand is so the reason why is that they're moving all voting off chain somehow, and they aren't coming up with an entire new layer for that, like a layer 2. There's not going to be like an arbitrum, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So I want to know how do they solve that problem without layer 2s are kind of gimmicky, you know, like if you can just get it all to work the right way to begin with, but it said it's being handled off chain. So I don't know how they're going to do that, but I'm interested to see for sure. For sure, for sure. My only thing currently is like all these companies have apparently, like, whether or not Elon, I guess, has to convince his board to do whatever. I guess at Tesla he's got like what, super majority of the board. He does whatever the fuck he wants probably. But say like GameStop for example, they're Bitcoin people. Now, the thing about Bitcoin is that your pitch to the board would consist of basically, well, eventually other people are going to scoop in or swoop in and scoop up a bunch of this shit, and it's going to make what we have on our reserves here more valuable or whatever. But there's all this like high karate that has to be done to make that a reality, like all this stuff that they say with like Michael Saylor and like how much he's having to move things across the board and everything to I wish I knew more about credit and debt and all that stuff, but like there's a lot of these things that are basically already implemented in Solana by staking it as an asset. Now, where I think would be super cool to see is that if you got to think for like a major company, the yield percentage or whatever, like the effectively mined Solana or whatever you want to call it by supporting the network is an incentive, is an economic incentive. But if there was a way to provide some sort of technical incentive to a company, you know what I mean, for them to have a reason to run a validator beyond the point of it just being like an economically viable idea, right? Because like really at the end of the day, it's like for a major company, whatever the APY or whatever, like 6 or 7% more mined Solana every year or whatever. You're like, to some companies that's not like it's great. Don't get me wrong. But if there was a way for that to, like, if you were a tech company, what incentives could you put into the blockchain itself to provide like features to people for running a validator beyond the point of just getting extra Solana every year or whatever? And I'm trying to think if there's not a way to do something with stable coins or something. Shit. Because you think they just recently shoot up with, with implementing Alpenglow, they're apparently going to shoot up 75% of the overall block space and free up all the actual votes and stuff, block votes, consensus stuff with actual transaction stuff, right? Is that correct? But if there's a way to do it, say there's 1,000,000 Solana, you have 100,000 Solana staked. I don't know how you do it based on volume, but if you agree that the network is supposed to provide a frictionless stablecoin transaction, then if you have 10% of the Solana staked and your daily stablecoin volume accounts for 10% of the chain's traffic, then it would subsidize. It could subsidize stablecoin transaction cost, and then if you exceed you know what I mean, and if you exceed that amount, then you have to pay the transaction fee or whatever. If they're filling the blocks and stuff are they doing that on filling the shit with spam anyway or whatever? I don't know if that's Bitcoin, but if you were to say like they just shoot up 75% of the block space, didn't they? Or they're going to soon. So if you staked 10% of your Solana, this would be like for a tech company that has a bunch of AIs that want to facilitate transactions with stable coins. It stands to reason that, well, it doesn't stand to reason, but it could make sense that there would be like either a layer or a smart contract set up just for stable coins. I know, but to treat stable coins as a different type of transaction as far as priority is concerned, and try to find a way to make it frictionless up to a certain amount. So like you have you purchase US dollar coin or you purchase a certain amount of the circulating supply. You don't purchase it, but you bind it to your validator, and if your validator has, say, 10% of the network staked Solana, then you're effectively, the first 10% of trading volume is free to you, and then everything beyond what you have staked, you pay the transaction fee or transaction cost. So that would potentially provide some sort of technical incentive for a tech company that wants to run a validator beyond the point of just, well, you get 7% APY or whatever, or 6% APY, reducing the, you know what I mean, the cost of transacting stablecoins, especially if X402 and all these AIs, agent-to-agent communications, all going to use it. But then you're asking, like regular, then I don't really know how you know, you don't want to take away the incentive to. I don't really know. But I'm trying to think of ways that. So when you sit there and you try to say like, well, why should a company have Solana as a treasury asset? Well, because we buy it cheap, we hold on to it. Other people buy it, there's less of it, and over a longer period of time, the stuff we have in our treasury is going to be worth more. Like that's the current argument for why to hold Bitcoin, is like the market will eventually appreciate the Bitcoin that we have to a higher value than what we purchased it at. Like that's awesome as a treasury asset, but if that treasury asset also served a technical purpose, then you could definitely make the case to why each company would want to have a Solana validator. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? So also making a portal that's user friendly for people to stake their Solana through. So when people are like, "Oh, you're staking your Solana through GameStop," cool. You know, people are about their home team and all that stuff. People that like GameStop and stuff. Oh, you're staking yours through your Stripe or your MicroStrategy, whatever, you know. And then you would have companies potentially providing incentives to their customers to stake through their validator, because them staking through their validator gives them an advantageous routes through the network as far as stablecoins are concerned, whether that be a frictionless stablecoin transaction or preferred something, you know what I mean? Without placating to just like well, how do you build something that's just for companies then, right? That's not the point, you know, but I don't know how you make something frictionless. I don't have a clue. But, you know, APY, you know, just as far as earning a yield on your Solana, plus, you know, like if you stake through our validator, you get, you don't have to pay for your subscription or whatever, you know, kind of thing. Oh my God, guy. But then in a traditional compute sense, I'm not 100% familiar with how to make something frictionless, or frictionless is, I guess, is probably in a compute sense is different than free. If you were to figure out a way to piggyback stablecoin transactions onto Solana transactions, though, where you get what I'm saying, like you pair the two and treat them as two separate things, where like essentially like a parasite, like a parasite, right? But the thing would piggyback off the Solana transaction, if that's possible. And then there's a technical incentive to run a validator. The validators still get rewarded based on the consensus process, and companies do their thing and provide free services to customers that stake through platform. And the reason why, well, because it gives their agent to agent communications frictionless transactions, at least to a certain degree. If that's possible, I don't know if I don't know the technicals. I don't know if it's technically possible. That's all. It's one of those things like, yeah, it's a great idea if it fucking worked like that. But what I'm trying to figure out is what I don't know. That's all. Yes. I'm helping. Like turtle face. I'm helping. It's called a Tecuter. Ever seen the $1 billion movie? It's called a Tecuter. He's got a computer that runs off of taquitos. Taquito. Give me just a second for mana. I don't know why that was such a devastating pull on my mana. Oh, Jerry. Because then you would sit there and say like, well, the cost of running a validator, man, you can't afford not to. You know what I mean? A major company, well, how many thousands of dollars in computer hardware, like relative to the reduction in cost for supporting the network. Yeah, I'd say even if, yeah, I'd say if you can figure it out, then yeah, I would say it's a great idea, probably. If it's possible. It's one of those. There might be some hiccups, and I haven't thought entirely like the way through it or whatever, but there might be more to have to figure out than just nothing at all. But I'd be curious to find out how they're doing the voting off chain though. Oh yeah, no, I agree. Derp. I don't have a silence, so all I can do is hope you get feared towards me. Let me move that around a little bit. There we go.
That's still recharging. That spell isn't ready. That's still recharging. I can't cast that. It feels safe. That spell isn't ready. That's still recharging. I can't cast that. My mana is low. That spell isn't ready. That's still recharging. I can't cast that yet. That spell isn't ready.
If I had this closer to the center of my screen and this here, it would make more sense so I can see what the fuck's going on, but I have standard unit frame, so I need to get get something different for healing, at least on this character. I don't like the regular fucking mage, like, not mage, but I like just regular unit frames, but for healing, like, it makes more sense to have a better idea of what the fuck's going on. Where mage are more worried about, like, is the thing sheeped or not, you know, so you want to be able to see it correctly and all that other stuff. My eyes don't work so good, so I gotta come up with a solution. Put my healing gear on. Yeah, I'll have to research all that shit later because I do understand how they're moving any of the process off chain and what that consists of, you know. But it fucking shoots up 75% to the block space, really? Does that mean that the shit's gonna just get like? I wish I knew, but I guess it's a set time slot anyway. Is there? I guess blocks fill up and then shit gets pushed to the next time slot normally, in high traffic or whatever. If I had to guess, any of this shit has to be possible. I'm sure it is. What the flying fuck? Where's our tank? Which one of you guys is the tank? Oh, you. Oh, yeah. That guy. You stand at max range, you don't pull aggro. full aggro on that, that ain't my fault. I could have done a flash heal instead, but the standing in melee range, they require it pulls threat quicker. I don't know if you were or not. Just saying. So how does it confirm like um, that you have the minimum system resources and all that stuff? Like if I wanted to start a validator, not that I can right now, but I guess I want to eventually. Uh, what what how does it go through the checklist to determine whether or not you do or don't have the system resources required, you know, to do the thing? Does it just tell you what it is, and then like clearly if your thing's lagging behind by a few seconds compared to everybody else, it knows that you're like, oh well, maybe you should, you know, you maybe need a better processor or whatever. But or is there like a thing where it actually communicates, like your validator node or your server or whatever? Does it actually communicate to the blockchain like a declaration of resources or whatever, where it tells the network and that somehow proofs? I wouldn't know how that works, but I'm curious whether or not it's like, well, normally if you have the bare minimum resources, other than latency, I guess you would all be voting and doing shit pretty much at the same speed. Or yeah, I wish I knew exactly how that worked. All right, guys. Well, I'll go again. Coil thing has been reset. Can I go shadow though? If you can find a healer. I like to DPS sometimes. Yeah, I've got a mage. Oof. But fuck. I look gross today, dude. Some days I fucking like I look like an alien. Hello, hello. Cut those onions like 6 hours ago. My fucking nose is still stopped up. Oh yeah, right. Are you crying because that guy won the home run derby? No, something else. Cutting onions. Right there, that works. That's funny. She be making me some water and food. Water and food. But if you would say like steak weighted whatever, like I said, then like there's not only is there an incentive to hold Solana and run a validator, there's an incentive to hold more than just a certain amount too, you know, or to incentivize others to stake through your validator. But there's some hiccups there that I can heal. Yeah, I can heal or DPS, right? Yep. Me and you, guy. Just me and you. Morty. Come here, Morty. Super good. Oh my god, I'm starving. Man, oh man. What have we here? Why are we doing this? Are you challenging me to a death match? Or was that guy the stick fighter? Asians cook with like oils and extracts. Americans cook with like soy sauce and shit. You know, I know they use soy sauce there too, but like the stuff you really need to make food taste good often doesn't have any salt added to it, you know? When you see how they cook, like they get flavor from spices. They don't just add salt to things and different flavored salts, right? You're like, no wonder they don't have heart disease anywhere in the Orient, period. Like they just don't, not like we do. So we're trying to find tons and tons of different things that have various like cooking oils and things. Not like avocado oil, but you know how like like a ghost pepper kind of thing. You know, like where they press it for the oil. You know, cooking kind of this liquid coconut aminos that I've got are great. Can I get some more water? So they're like, I didn't add any sugar, I didn't add any salt, I didn't add anything to this at all, just some type of coconut extract, and it's got a sweet taste to it. I think altogether it's like 3 grams of sugar, you know, for a whole bowl of food, and it's got a sweet taste to it. I'm like, yeah, we've been fucking doing this shit incorrectly. He doesn't have the new water. No. BRB. though. Attention. Attention, gay retards. Attention, gay retards. Why is your bedroom cleaner than mine? Why is your bedroom cleaner than mine? Do we need to. He's in the fucking bone waste. What is he doing out there? Pre-sheep. He's out there in the goddamn bone waste. We can stone summon or warlock summon. Oh, I love broccoli. I guess he's just doing his own thing. Never mind. Yeah, I wonder. I wonder what's going on, dude. Rumblings. There are rumblings. It is so good. Brown rice, fresh vegetables. Cool. Oh man, oh man. Oh brother. Oh brother.
That spell isn't letting me. I can't cast that.
Pulling room. Yeah, we did this earlier. We sure did. A lot of XP doing it this way. Don't renew. Crazy. Huh? Yep, yep, yep.
That spell isn't letting me. That's still recharging. I can't cast that.
Yeah, taking any damage doing this shit either.
That spell isn't letting me.
Crazy. Only we could do every room like that, for the love of God. That's less mana than doing it the normal way. Crazy.
I can't cast that. That's still recharging. I can't cast that. That spell isn't letting me.
Crazy. So we have like a traditional spell cleave team currently.
That's still recharging. I can't cast that.
This is the way to level, right? Yeah. Me going shadow would be an even better idea. Yeah, but what I read that like very few, if any, hardly any at all, of the transactions or like block data is governance votes, right? Hardly, which I guess kind of makes sense because like how often is a governance change introduced versus or like the things that govern governance or whatever. You know, I'm not familiar with all that yet, but fucking super excited, dude. This has been a rough, just to see at least some semblance of something at least entertaining and coming to light would be great. Oh, I mean, wait. Okay. Crazy. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. Not do that. God damn it. He went back to the carpet store on that one, didn't he? Never go back to the carpet store. Didn't see you. What? Oh, he's pretty drunk. What do you mean the priest didn't see you? I saw the guy ran in there and got within melee range of something that was already frost nova and got gibbed instantly. Insta gibbed. What does that mean? You ever see a word you go, let me get my dictionary off the shelf. I got a word to look up. Stop us down, Jerry.
I can get past that. That's still recharging.
Look at that crit.
That's valuable. I can get past that. That's still recharging. That spell isn't letting go. That's still recharging. I need more mana.
The Gorgatron Belt of the Silencer. The fuck is the name of that? Belt of Bog Slayer Gorgatron. Oh, remember that time? Giant fuck. God damn it, dude. Pacific Rim job, please. Pacific, can I get that Pacific Rim job? Let me get that Pacific Rim job. I'm gonna build giant Chinese fighting robots. Japanese fighting robots. What are the Chinese Japanese differences? So don't they both like giant fighting robots though? Last time I checked on the internet, like 1/3 of their television.
That spell isn't letting go. I can get past that. That's still recharging.
Which was one of those things. It's like translates into great entertainment, but rarely have they ever like I guess video games entertainment, but they've never made a good fighting robot video game. Like MechAssault was an alright game, but it wasn't like nearly as cool as you would expect it to be. You would think, what could possibly be cooler than giant skyscraper-sized robots beating the shit out of each other? That yet they continuously fumble and drop the ball on that subject. For them to fucking so flagrantly just not do what they need to do, man. They could. You would think of all the things like Resident Evil TV shows shouldn't be shit. Resident Evil movies shouldn't be shit. Giant fighting robot video games should be the best video games ever. No questions asked. Yet, no matter what, it seems like they always fucking drop the ball on the thing. Really. I don't know why. Why so consistently fucking shitty, guy? Why so consistently shitty with the shit? You know? Giant fighting robots. How could you possibly fuck that up? How could you possibly fuck that up? Yet they've yet to really provide like a super awesome fighting robot video game. Come on now. Where the fucking where you at, dog? No, where is he? Why take so much damage? Yeah, I got ballsy with my thing there. I got clams in my bags. So weird. That's the weirdest backpack ever. Look at it. Like, could you imagine if you found a dead body somewhere and you like look through it and there's like candles, a horse's head, some fish, a couple pieces of wool cloth, a wedding ring, some flowers. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? What the fuck is this guy doing?
That's still recharging. That cell isn't ready. That's still recharging.
Uh, just need mana. Oh shit, my head's floating.
How generous.
Did you poop today?
I can't ask that yet.
Asking for a friend? Right. Oh shit. I thought you were gonna pull it back to here. Oh my god. Guy. No, 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 guy.
It's too far away. That spell isn't ready.
Oh, good guy. Guy. Why'd you do that, guy?
That spell isn't ready.
God damn it. I didn't know his tail whipped around.
That's still recharging.
Clutch resist, dude.
My mana is low.
I don't have anything. Is there something? Potion of the fucking underwater breathing. Good God.
My mana is low.
The fuck was that? I thought you were gonna pull up. Oh. Oh. Yeah, like miles ahead of us. Yeah. Yeah, I went quick.
I can't ask that yet.
Why did my sound just turn off? Why the fucking... Did I hit that button?
Too far away. That's still recharging. That
Wish
spell
I had
isn't
a
letting
poison
me.
cleanse, but I don't. Priest cannot cleanse poisons. I think, right? Like a disease. Hardly anything has a disease, you know. Oh my god.
I can't trust that. That's still recharging. That spell isn't letting me. That's still recharging. That spell isn't letting me. I can't trust that. That's still recharging. That spell isn't letting me.
I've made 225 gold on my character so far. Whoa, Eric. It's good for you.
I can't trust that. That's still recharging. That spell isn't letting me. I can't trust that. That spell isn't letting me. I can't trust that. That's still recharging. I can't trust that. That spell isn't letting me.
He's wasp. Then we got a Snakes on a Plane sequel called Wasps on a Helicopter. These wasps on a helicopter, starring Steven Seagal. Starring Steven Seagal. Conjured Mountain Spring Water. Also, Mountain Spring Waters. Pre-sheep.
Thank you.
four different types of four different types of water.
It's not. It's not.
Really? If you got more than that, oh, even better.
Beast! Obey me! Kill them at once!
That's still recharging.
Beast! Obey me!
That spell
Kill
isn't
them at once!
just like
Yikes. Crazy. Oh, I should have trinketed. Keep forgetting. Alright, now. You got half a level. Should just slash played, what has it been, like 4 hours? Exact, well, almost 5. Crazy.
that's still recharging. I
Yikes. And you got smashed by 2 bugs.
that's still recharging. That spell isn't ready yet. I need more mana. I need more mana. I need more mana. The spell recharging.
Well, there's not shit I can do here, guy. We we did until the mage died. We did. Just face roll your keyboard. What the heck it looked like. Priest Sheep needs to stay out of melee range.
My mana is low. Much appreciated. I can't fix that.
That's got to be a record heal. World record heal. That's a world record heal, bro.
Next round?
Yes.
That's still recharging.
That increased his armor there, didn't it? Crits, great.
I can't pass that. That's still recharging. Next round is a gimme.
Yikes, dude. Had that happened to anybody else, I don't think it would have been able to heal through this shit. For fuck's sakes. I already have those robes. Do I? These are damage and healing 28. I think the tunic is. Don't I have these? The tunic of the thing is better, I think. I remember wearing the tunic on my character forever. 42 damage and 14 crit. Yeah. Have fun, guys. Oh, Jerry. Those were pretty quick. Yeah, we did really good there. Just shouldn't get tired of doing it. Alright, go to Zangramash. Like Zangradarsh. Zangradarsh. And repair. More like Zangradarsh. Hibiscus clam meats. What the fuck?
Let's get her back.
There's a reagent vendor somewhere that I can get actual candles from. They have these out of date holy candles. We're looking for them sacred candles, which are different.
Need help?
Bunches of water. And 4414, 4214. 2 damage or 8 spirit. I guess one's better for Shadow Priest. Because the Shadow Priest gets a little bit of damage from spirit, plus I have 10% spirit buff, and then, you know, the rest is history. The rest is history, guy. I'll be right back. Terrible.
Be good.
Hello. Hello, hello. I'm not really terrible. Be grateful for your friends, the internet says. I had a dream about him earlier. I never had a dream about him before. He's one of the only others. He told me a secret about himself that I cannot divulge. And it would not surprise you, for the most part. I think we'd all probably we'd probably believe it.
Good fortune. The Legion's end draws nigh. The Naru have not forgotten us. Great to meet you. You got my attention.
Scroll of Spirit. Ahoy.
Off with you. How are ya?
Oh, I'm alright, guys. Just hanging in there.
May the light embrace you. Blessings upon you. Open your heart to the light.
Oh, there we go. Get rid of these old candles. Out with the old candles, in with the new candles, as they say. No one ever said that. No one has ever said that. Ever. That's the first time that retarded sentence has been uttered.
May your days be long and your hardships few.
It would be interesting to think though, like this proof of history thing has got me so tickled, dude. Like if you could potentially take, like I was thinking of it like, well, but make sure I got my trinket equipped correctly. I think it's so useful even outside of crypto. That's the thing. You know what I mean? If you could just set up a way to have it be, well, then it would need a special, like a device or something. Either way, though, if you could use it and you could broadcast, because they call it a heartbeat, right? If you could take the proof of history part and have it transmit on ham radios or something, you know what I mean? To where anything could pick up that signal no matter where it was on Earth. So we have like a universally agreed upon time. I'm obsessed with the idea of like radios and stuff. I don't necessarily know what purpose it serves. I just think it's one of those things that would be cool because they kind of do that with like the number stations and stuff already. But and I've always wondered what those were exactly. But
That's still recharging. It's too far away. I can't toss it. That spell is effective. That's still recharging.
is this more, please? Thank you.
I can't toss it.
Oh, you're gonna make me say something anti-Semitic. I'm sure of it. What the fuck is that? Feared a squirrel? Well, I'm gonna be stuck in combat forever. I'm wondering what like utility like what is it's gonna I have a feeling that it's something that is I get the impression that it's gonna be something popular or big or like we understand it in its current form and then sometime in the future we realize like how much more helpful it really is kind of thing. Like quantum computing, something where time is fuzzy and foggy, like and you wouldn't necessarily set it to an atomic clock, but like if you wanted to calculate qubit processes or whatever, you like had to have a like an actual cryptographic time stamp for that kind of thing. Whereas like it might not work with
That's still recharging.
it might not work with regular like you whatever the fucking atomic clock is or whatever. You know, there's just you gotta think. I feel like it's an idea that has yet to see its best days or something. You know. You think with quantum computing, where's the thing there? Time, but yeah, I don't know. Not necessarily time, but you get what I'm saying. Where sort of a lot of the regular constraints seem to just kind of act funny, acts weird, whatever. But it makes you wonder, like, it's one of those things where if you remember in like 2016 or 17, all the ICOs and stuff were all like, we're combining. I was like, that's how you knew something was a scam. They were like, we're gonna combine. We're making the first quantum computer AI blockchain. You're like, you just Googled some buzzwords and put it all in a fucking thing together. All rubbish, all fucking garbage, dude. All garbage. But just like when people say crypto and AI now, like based on being given an example of what that would look like, now we know, you know, so it's no longer garbage, you know. We have an actual idea of what we think crypto AI should look like. You know what I mean? Combination of the two. They complement each other. They really do complement each other, you know. And it sucks that it's somehow video games and crypto have never managed to coexist in the same space commercially in a way that was as successful as it's going to be eventually, you know.
That spell is effective. That's still recharging.
But I get the impression that it's all happening on Solana, and when it does happen, that's where it's going to happen, you know. I really do. I'd put everything I had on it. If you look at like the early days of gaming and stuff, like how many variations or renditions of different systems were there before there was like ever something that was super commercially successful? But then when it was, you know, it was like so successful that people can't live without the shit anymore. So I think there's going to be a fair bit of like getting your toes wet, and then eventually all the shit will click together whenever people realize they can participate in a blockchain-based gaming community or environment without necessarily having to have a whole bunch of exotic knowledge about crypto or blockchain, where it all seemingly runs about the same as you would you would recognize it, no more difficult to use, no more complicated, no more difficult to understand than regular gaming or gaming systems or whatever. Like, and I think once it gets to that point, I think it's headed that direction, really it is, you know. So we need withered giants, which are these guys. They're all dead already? What the fuck are you guys? Oh, yeah, you shouldn't have. Oh, good, because we didn't. Oh, well, good. Because you shouldn't have. Good, because we didn't. Thanks, because you really shouldn't have. Well, that's not a problem, because we didn't. Oh. Well, if you did, I would have said that you probably shouldn't have. Well, because we didn't, we're going to go ahead and tell you now that we didn't.
It's too far away. That's still rechargeable. I can't use that yet. That's done. I can't use that yet. I need to get closer. It's too far away. That's done. That's still rechargeable. I can't use that yet. That's still rechargeable. That's done.
Really?
That's still rechargeable. That's done. I can't use that yet.
But the thing I researched about WiMAX was it doesn't necessarily propagate through walls very well, and it also doesn't handle the Doppler effect very well, which is not something that I was familiar with affecting signal when it comes to that kind of thing. So you're like, so if you could, like, is there any way to use that to your advantage? Like, well, things that don't move and things that aren't indoors, like, I guess using microwave from like tower to tower communication. I don't know if it's line of sight dependent or not, but the thing is too though is that if it does use a frequency that's not already preoccupied or whatever or spoken for, then that might be helpful, because um, signal overlap and stuff as far as frequencies are concerned. frequency ranges. You know, they designate certain frequencies for certain things. You're like, you might not be buying the best technology, but you're buying the technology that can be used, considering it nothing else occupies the same bandwidth or whatever, the same frequency range, right?
It's too far away. That's still charging.
But you have to think, so like, yeah, but you could also, not to say to use it, was it not in tandem, but you think anything that increases signal. So if you have like tower to tower, like at, you know, skyscrapers, you know, and that's just another layer of bandwidth. You know what I mean? You're trying to pile as much data on the light spectrum as humanly possible. You're like, yeah, well, these things could, you know, something like that to where you use it in tandem or couple it with, because it uses two different frequencies. You know what I mean? So they say like, well, WiMAX lost the race because I'm just trying to think of like all that time developing something and there's no use for it really. I'm sitting there thinking like, well, you would have, if you could get to, what was the thing I read? It was, I forget what it was called. Um, and I asked a question. I posted it on Twitter a while ago, and I asked like, is there any real move for cellular companies to multi-band, multi-band channel, but channel bonding? That's right. So I asked if there was any move for cell phone companies, like, because it sounds like it's not the worst network thing ever. It's just it's not great for things that are moving. You're like, okay, well, stationary objects, okay, things that don't move and things that you don't need to see or like broadcast a signal into side like inside a dwelling or whatever. You're like, so if you had some type of Starlink connection on your phone and then a antenna on top of your building, and you could combine the two's bandwidth because they both occupy different frequencies, right? Poor signal loss if you're moving at over 70 miles an hour, they say, and also it's not as, it doesn't penetrate through walls and stuff very well. I don't know how much bandwidth you could, or like how much actual like up and down speed you could put on one of these WiMAX antennas or whatever, receiver senders. But you would say if it adds another layer of bandwidth, yeah, I don't know. Starlink's pretty good though. You know, I don't know how much more you need than that really, but I'm trying to think if they already made the technology. They came up with the technology. It works great. It's just not as good as LTE, even though they phased out LTE for 5G. Now they're gonna phase out. They're gonna roll out 6G in the next 4 or 5 years or whatever. And what can you do with this shit that's already been developed and made, or is it just one of those? It's a hopeless. You know, it's totally. There's no reason to try. Kind of. It's that inefficient. You know. There's 100,000 things that work better. You know. But channel bonding is like no that from what I can gather, no like cell phones and stuff use channel bonding, which is the more signals that you're in connection with simultaneously increases your overall bandwidth, so you don't limit yourself to just one channel of communication between yourself and like the cell phone tower. Um, Essentially, you could have it to where like you use your Wi-Fi if you're inside your home, and it also still simultaneously connects to 5G or 6G. And instead of it being like one or the other, it just increases your overall bandwidth, right? But from what I gathered, there's not like any real move by handsets and telecom companies to really come up with a device that has that uses that kind of feature or whatever. Not that they're. I mean, I think eventually they will, though, won't they? It seems like it's a no-brainer. You mean to tell me the more towers you're within range of is it just increases your bandwidth? I guess it's probably more technically complicated than that, but it seems like a good idea. It would seem like a no-brainer. Yeah, like so channel bonding for your household wireless internet, if the entire internet thing goes off the grid eventually, you know. But like Starlink to your phone, Starlink to your home kind of shit, then connect to your Wi-Fi to your home and then connect to Starlink directly through your phone, you know, and your Wi-Fi at the same time, and however much that is extra bandwidth, you know. Huh. Right, right. That's what I was saying, dog. Why do I get the opinion? I don't believe you. There's a whole bunch of these things running around still. Are you trying to? What about the Alliance? Shadow or death. The thing is, though, is like satellite to ground communication going to make that not necessary, you know? Yeah, I don't know. It's like the cost to do it. Is it cheaper just to? They're gonna build data centers in space. It stands to reason. Sometimes it's just better to shoot shit into space. You know, as much as it doesn't seem like, how could that possibly be cheaper? But what are the reasons for engineering wise for why data centers in space make more sense? Is it the energy cost, the self-sustain, you know? Because I can imagine at some point in time, you guys are gonna have to have people like fly up there and change out the graphics cards every 4 years or whatever. Isn't that gonna get expensive? I'm sure you guys got it figured out, don't you? Imagine how much like underwater salvage welders and shit make. Imagine space people going up there to fucking swap out graphics cards and all that every couple of years. Yeah, those guys are gonna get paid a shitload, trust me. That's where it's headed, I guess, you know? At least at the end of the day, you're like, well, good practice, you know, getting people into space and getting comfortable working there. Can you imagine in 20 or 30 years having a commercial gig that requires you to just 2 days a month they shoot me into space and I make fucking $900,000 a year or whatever. That's what, you know, that makes sense, kind of. All I do is they fucking shoot me into space over the weekend like they did Katy Perry, you know, and I go into space, I bring a wrench with me, I turn some knobs, I get paid $900,000 a year, and everything's good. Yeah, why wouldn't you want to do that? You can get exploded. But they're pretty successful at not killing astronauts. So I guess it's where it's headed. Crazy. Crazy that that is exactly where they're going with all this shit. So when SpaceX says, like, yeah, our whole thing will be worth more than the planet, I don't know where that estimate's coming from, but space stuff is going to be a huge business for sure, you know. Just being able to cart people in and out of space, right? Just like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I guess that's what he was doing, dude. He was fucking pulling out the graphics cards and all that. I won't be doing it. I already went to space. I already did that. I don't have to do it no more. I'm a retired astronaut.
Goddess bless you.
More necklaces. Just raw healing and MP5. Great.
Go in peace.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hail. Tell me I hate you. Ancestors watching.
I am honored. What brings you here? Asha Bilal.
I hate Zangermarsh. Your bags just get full of all this shit that you like never use no matter what. Is there any profession that requires any of this shit? Edible stalks, random ferns, living essences. All right now. Ow. Slimes, feathers, tree branches, like spores, all this shit is garbage. Bags are entirely full of shit I don't use. Yeah, that's what I gotta figure out tonight though is Alpenglow. Alpenglow. Who's coming up with these names?
That spell isn't ready yet. That's still recharging.
when you're underwater, you should regenerate more mana, so I could just farm underwater. Because now I'm and this is shitty. What was that? I'm interested to see though, like some of those like automated trading things, you know, and like some of that shit's probably pretty interesting, you know. I just can't imagine where like, yeah, like I said the other day, the same thing about Polymarket. It's like one thing to have an algorithm, but I'd rather just create something, you know, like a way to produce wealth or whatever, or to extract wealth or to win or whatever, where it is. But another thing to actually create something people use, you know. But I think the automated trading thing could be made a pretty interesting experience with shit like what's it called, 11 Labs and HeyGen and all that. Like the experience could be fun, you know what I mean? Automated traders and AIs and stuff, but getting your reports and stuff via email, video chats and stuff with your video agent and everything else. That could be fun. I don't think that's the future per se. You know, that technology is, but that exact application of it, I don't think is like the thing that really is going to get people on board. Really, it'll get some people, but it's not going to be like the bread and butter of it. It might be the bread and butter, but you know what I mean. Like the thing people actually use it for, though. It might make the most money, but is that really what it's about with that kind of thing? It's not going to make the most people the most money. More than likely, it'll make a few people like super duper rich. You know, but you never know though. Automate AI being more prevalent, it might be the thing that does make everybody filthy rich. You never know. The automated trading portion of that. Because that type of thing is like, well, usually the technical understanding isn't the thing that prevents people from being able to do it. Well, no, it is the technical understanding. Like, I'm trying to elaborate. like giving an avatar a personality and stuff is a nice feature to have for that kind of thing, but if something makes a shit ton of money regardless, you could really give a shit less about like the user interface portion of it, you know. If the learning curve on how to actually use the technology is a lot easier to use though, and then the amount of people that'll use it will increase and all that stuff, but as far as like, well, yeah, using an algorithm that wins by trading like 90% of the time or whatever, like, yeah, that's not something that necessarily requires a fancy user interface. You know, it's kind of the reason why it works is because it is difficult to use. You know what I mean? So few people know how to do it. Like adding, well, the thing is though is that the difficulty required to add like a video agent that you can talk to like a person to facilitate your trades by voice chat and all that stuff, like that might be features that are appreciated, but that's not going to be the reason why it's successful. The reason why something like that is super successful is because it has the ability to like print, you know, by like a provably a trading algorithm that seems to be profitable or whatever. Slightly distracted for some reason. I don't really know why. This water's got me dizzy. You know, there's nobody saying, oh, so you mean to tell me you had this thing that could trade all day and you could put $100 into it and have $100,000 by the weekend? And yeah, well, I'm not going to use it until you give it a cartoon character for me to talk to. You know what I mean? Like, no, the selling point there, not that this exists or if it does, whatever, you know, I'm not trying to sell something. I'm just saying that um, the incentive for most people for that kind of thing is, well, I can put $100 in and have $100,000 by the weekend. Not, but it's got like this cool kind of Duff Man cartoon character that I can talk to that also helps me do my trading. But as things head that way anyway, you know what I mean, towards video agents and AI and all that. Yeah, you'll see it, but it's not the selling point. It's a cool feature, but it's not necessarily like it doesn't necessarily need to be successful. For convenience sake, though, you'd think if you've got a group, I read something online the other day that said they had like $2 billion in something trades or whatever. I forget what it was called, but you'd think like, well, the next logical step if you're making that kind of money is how do you use that to really to then do something like that, right? To increase the user experience at some point is helpful if you're making that kind of money. It's not necessary, but you would think the thing that you could definitely pitch to your board of directors or whatever is, well, we're going to reinvest some of what we earned on this quarter's trading, whatever the fuck, to improve the overall technology and, you know, kind of invest into that idea even further versus like, well, we're going to go buy a bunch of sports cars or whatever, which I guess is cool too, but at the end of the day though, I have more fun, and I don't have like a sports car, but I have like a nice Dodge Charger, you know, a pretty nice car. I have more fun talking to an AI than I ever do cruising around town or whatever. I'm just not a car guy, really. I have way more fun. So you'd say like, yeah, if I were the type of guy that fucking doing some shit like that, I would have way more fun creating the coolest AI ever than I would spending it on like shit that I don't necessarily. This shit doesn't bring me joy. It really doesn't. I thought it would at some point in time. I know it's like typical. Everybody says that, but and don't get me wrong. I still appreciate a nice car and a nice home and all that. I'm not like some lion ass bitch, but the thing that motivates me though is something totally different usually. Tell me this thing can print $100 million? Like, oh, well, wake me up when it's got a cartoon character I can talk to, right? Yeah, no one has ever said that. But you know, I do see like an automated thing, though. Like if you've got a trading algorithm and it prints out like the quarterly reports, and like you interact with your broker and you receive video like Hagen, um, you know, like updates and stuff, and like the shit that you would normally get from like a financial advisor or whatever, you know, just like real time updates and real like pose a question and get a response kind of things. I could see how that would be helpful, and that is where it's headed. You know, I know that's where it's headed eventually, but
It's too far away.
I don't think some outside company is going to say like, oh well, we really want to make your trading algorithm or whatever the best trading algorithm. It's like I think that sort of thing's going to come from either somebody with a superior trading algorithm implementing video agent AI, or somebody with a superior trading algorithm reinvesting into themselves and creating a video agent AI that is the you know what I mean. But currently the technology already exists. But what's crazy to see is that these what do they call these brokerage people? I don't fucking know. Investor guys. These investor guys are using video agent technology, and the video agent technology that they use to me is far more impressive than the trading algorithm. Yet the investment strategy they have managed to accrue 2 point something billion dollars in the last 4 months, 3 months, I think. Yeah, last 3 months or whatever it was. Yet the video agent AI technology that they use or could potentially use is only worth $100 million. So I'm no expert, but and I don't have any reason to believe that they do use that technology. I'm saying though, if they did use that technology, you know, it isn't like, overall I don't know what the process is for whatever, but if I had all the money in the world, I would buy Hagen. That's what I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. If I had all the money in the world, I would buy that company in a heartbeat. Thing is, if worth 100, if I last time I checked, that company's worth $100 million. That is grossly underpriced. I don't know if it's the type of, I don't know how the process is. I don't know how you buy a company like that. I really don't. I'm just saying though, if I had all the money in the world, that's what I would buy. Or figure out a way to train my own video agent model, right? Or figure out, not to say figure out how they did it, but research more about the technology and come up with a way to train our own model to do something similar. But I like the way all their stuff looks cool, just looks nice, you know. I don't know the process for using their API. Like, how do you couple the, you know, um, the 3D model, if it is 3D or whatever, to the Hagen API to where it knows how to move the thing's lips correctly. You know, I have no clue how to do all that. Because all the things I've seen about machine learning and lip sync look like shit, other than Hagen. All like the open source, like Unreal, and I don't know if that's because there's like not a lot of system resources or it looks laggy. It just doesn't look right. Lip sync on the stuff looks like garbage, but and that is like, well, it doesn't necessarily take away from the user experience. I'm like, then you go watch fucking Godzilla Plus One and tell me that it's a good movie, you know, after you're done reading it, you know, and the character, you know, there's a reason why those movies are traditionally, a dubbed over movie is traditionally not as successful, you know, in a lot of ways, despite like foreign films and stuff, no matter how good they are, they never translate well to box office sales from like other countries to the United States, because people don't like looking at the fucking shit all out of whack. You know, they really don't. Alright, we gotta kill some hydras. Any quest that has you swimming around in the fucking water, dude. Annoying.
That spell isn't working. I can't trust that. That spell isn't working.
You know what I mean? Like, increasing the experience is great, but I don't think the video agent interactive broker is going to be the thing that sells the overall video agent idea to the public. It's I think one will precede the other, and I think that's true because the agent stuff's already popularized in a lot of ways. But the thing is, people don't even realize they have the live agent feature. Everybody uses the shit to create videos. They have like a live agent feature. You can actually talk to the fucking thing. Now, that being said, so do we, but we have to use their API, unfortunately. But they have to use 11 Labs API, so it's a fucking, and we all have to use electricity to run our computers, unless you have some guy pedaling a goddamn bike. So, hopefully in the future, though, we don't have to. Would be the goal. That's why I'm harping and saying that the most important fucking thing on planet Earth right now is Heijen or making our own model that does the same thing, if not better. You know what I mean? I cannot emphasize enough, you know, that that's the most important thing right now, period. Period. Then again, though, their live agent, last time I checked, doesn't have vision analysis or doesn't have any multimodal AI beyond voice and text input, right? So there's not a lot of other things going on there, but doesn't mean it can't. It's just that they don't think they have that feature. Now, that being said, I cannot, like I said, I cannot pound the pavement enough about how important training our own or me winning the fucking lottery and purchasing fucking the company that does it. That would be the goal.
That's still recharging.
Because everything I've looked up online, these guys that open source their own and develop and then train their own lip sync model to work with their MetaHumans and I guess just whatever rendering engine they use for that kind of thing. They they graphically look pretty cool. Some of them look somewhat lifelike, but they they do not have the lip sync thing figured out. Really, they don't. They all look like shit. and Heijin doesn't. Not to mention, I kind of like the fact that it doesn't look so lifelike. I like the fact that it does kind of look kind of cartoony. Maybe not cartoony is the right word, but there's just something about it, man. It looks real crisp and clean, and if it is an aesthetics feature, then you want it to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible. And it's not a convenience feature, you know, but then again, nice, super nice sports cars that look super cool. You know what I mean? Those are purely aesthetic things as well, you know. Because it's rare where mankind gets to a point and it's all of a sudden it's like new science unlocked, right? AI. You can run this shit on like these old desktop computers and stuff. You can get an old machine from the early 2000s and run. So a software, it's very rare for a new type of software to completely just, it's normally a piece of hardware, you know what I mean? But for a software innovation to give man this much power, it hardly ever happens. Even the internet isn't just a solely software, you know, I mean, yeah, there's graphics compute and stuff involved with computers, but uh, technically you can run these like rudimentary large language models and stuff that use the exact same scientific principles that ChatGPT and OpenAI and Anthropic and all those guys use for these high token count models, right? It's like it's so rare that just a software breakthrough like just changes everything, you know, like new technology unlocked, right? You can even run, you know, like Doom, you can run it on pregnancy tests or whatever, but um, in principle, right, you can calculate the shit out on paper if you need to, you know. It's very rare if ever does that happen, you know. And then for all of mankind to just suddenly just be on board with this whole new science, like we've been doing it the entire time, where the innovations occur so quick that even the experts are like, we fucking, how do we keep up with all this shit, you know? Because there's like all these brilliant minds just waiting, and then this shit happened, and it's like, in reality, it's like once you prove that it's possible, in theory, you know, it's not impossible to learn, you know, it's like the 100th monkey effect times 100 almost, right? How quickly everybody learned it, plus learned to do it. I say everybody, but you know, scientists and stuff, how quickly an entirely new technology was just picked up by everybody, like we've done, like almost like we've done this before, kind of, you know. It is strange, if you believe in what L. Ron Hubbard teaches. But I'd be interested to know how much of what Heijin has managed to do is that like, how much of that was what do they call that? Like assisted learning versus just raw machine learning. When like where how much like pruning did they actually train like their AI on video footage of people speaking, or did they hard code and tell the thing like, yeah, this is what the ooh lips look like, this is what the e lips look like, this is or did they just probably a bit of both, more than likely. If they went a whole different way with it, that's why I don't know. What was their process for that kind of thing? There might even be a way that they did it without any machine learning. I doubt it, but maybe. Just because something's used in AI doesn't necessarily mean it has anything to do with AI too. But I have a feeling that they probably had to use some kind of machine learning process for that kind of thing. But I would say that company, if I can have the fact that it's only worth $100 million, is insanity. Now that might be one of those things like, well, it's not for sale, is why. Fundraising rounds and stuff. Look, that thing's gonna be worth a fucking fortune, dude. If I could just get a piece of it, if I could just get a piece of it, dude, I already know. Thing is going to be worth a fucking fortune. Where's Boglash? Round 2 Boglash fight. Got a Boglash fight. Everybody Boglash. Fucking squirrel meat in my bags. You think you can defeat me? LARP. Let's LARP. Three, two, one, LARP. Oh no, Jerry. Oh my god, he's fucking solo ball. He is the chosen one. He is the chosen one. Yes. Oh, I didn't even use my trinket. Bonus points. Didn't even use this trinket. Only makes it that much more true. If I had $1 million, I'm telling you. What day is it? Okay, let's pretend I have $100 million worth of that company. It is July 15th, 2026. Let's see what it's worth in 10 years. Hey guy, you're level 70. I'm level 63. Thought maybe we could get together. Are all of these things like, I killed 8 of these, 6 of those, 8 of these. There's only Umbra Friend Witch Doctors. Umbra Friend. Umbra Friend Witch Doctors? They have a specific spawn location. There we go. Uh-huh. Well, no. Any of these extras? Come on, guy. These are witch doctors. Uh, oracles. Really? I'm about as far south as you can get with the shit, right? There's another person up here. Just hanging out until the guy respawns. Oh. Markets are doing pretty good though. So I'll put my click there. Good, let's get the fuck out of here. Oh, there's a witch doctor.
That cell isn't ready yet.
We'll get through this eventually, Morty. We got a few more of these things to kill. They just seem to be impossible to find.
That's still recharging. I can't toss that.
God damn it. This fucking thing healed it.
That's still recharging.
Things I'm really interested in seeing though is like what Griffin and them guys do, really. 'Cause you think at some point in time their platform's awesome. Like they have got to have a plan to implement video agents at some point in time. The only problem is like doing it in a cost-effective way while having to use other people's APIs. You're like, yeah, and then crypto projects, unfortunately, the way shit is, you know, like the chances of something like that being able to train its own video agent model is like, well, it's like super expensive, and a lot of crypto has to be designed to be self-funding and the type of self-funding that you can't necessarily, you know what I mean? Like, without there being some sort of gimmick or some goddamn meme pump fund token about the shit, then there's no way to really generate the revenue required to train a model that costs a whole shitload to train. You have to rely on external APIs, and those are expensive, and you know what I mean? So I don't know what the. And then unfortunately, that type of thing always involves them passing the cost on to you, the end user, who has to use a token to do it, and the token depreciates and appreciates with the market conditions, and you're like, sometime it's just a fucking difficult, hands full of silly putty kind of thing, you know. I really wish those guys would post more. I know the guy that created it posts on his actual account, and the Griffin itself account, they don't hardly, I don't think they've posted in like last 16 months or so. Not to say I'm worried, but you know, you'd be wondering what the fuck's going on at any point in time. Hopefully they're preparing for some type of fucking magic trick or something. Hopefully. They're gonna saw a woman in half. on now.
It's too far away. That spell isn't ready yet. I can't use that. That's still a charger. That spell isn't ready yet. I can't use that. That's still a charger. I can't use that.
Let's investigate the lake, it says. Yeah, I think I'm gonna log after this. I'm not gonna level or anything, but I got to eat some more chicken and rice. Zangra Darsh. Cool. So let's go ahead and hearth, call it an evening.